Hello, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of How in the Heck is Ohio State going to replace that guy? I'm Tony Gerdeman from BuckeyeHuddle.com and also the Buckeye Weekly Podcast, doing a series here on YouTube on how Ohio State's going to replace all of their departed starters, of which there are a lot. And they're losing 8 starters on each side of the ball, so you can do the math on that one. And I've already done 4 of these, and this is the 5th, of course, doing the math on that one. We've previously talked about how Ohio State is going to replace Emeka Egbuka in the slot, how they're going to replace middle linebacker Cody Simon, how they're going to replace defensive tackle Tyleik Williams, and how they're going to replace Lathan Ransom at strong safety. So now let's talk about how Ohio State is going to replace starting quarterback Will Howard, who came to Ohio State from Kansas State, spent 1 year in Columbus, but it was about as productive a year as anybody could possibly have, and certainly could have hoped to have had for Will Howard himself. Comes in and wins a national title, spends 12 months in Columbus, and leaves as a legend in Ohio State history, one of many from this past team, and made the most of his time in Columbus after making some time in Kansas State. I don't want to say wasting his time because it all ended up to this point, but a guy who started in portions of all 4 years he spent in Manhattan. He was finally the full-time starter in 2023 as a senior, was supposed to be the full-time starter in 2022, but they went and brought in Adrian Martinez out of the transfer portal and kind of stuck Will Howard with a shiv in that season in terms of what they what he thought was going to happen that year. And so he was a guy that throughout the first 3 years of his career would have to bail Kansas State out when their preferred quarterback would go down with an injury or not perform or whatever. And so then finally as a senior in 2023, he is able to start and play well, but not to the point where when he entered the portal, there was this clamoring for, oh, that's the guy that everybody has to go get. If you want a quarterback, that's the guy. No, that was Cam Ward, and that was Dylan Gabriel. Will Howard was just another guy in the group of everybody else. And so early on, you heard USC talks with him. It sounded like he was done to USC. And so then covering Ohio State, you kind of just, well, who else is out there? And then when it came back around to Ohio State, there was, it was met with some, okay. I mean, this is all you can get. Mighty Ohio State. This is all you can end up with. This is the lure, the power of Ohio State. It's just Will Howard. And you look at the career numbers and it's hard to be like, certainly you couldn't have foreseen what he did this year, throwing for 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and leading Ohio State to a national championship. However, the amount of talent that he had to work with at Kansas State was certainly limited. And the best player he was throwing to was his tight end. So that gives you an idea of how effective can you be as a quarterback when you don't have as many weapons as you could have at other places. And when he got to Ohio State, he got those weapons, and it turned him into a school record 73% completion guy. And that was a season record for Ohio State. He had 8 games where he completed over 80% of his passes, which is a career record at Ohio State. So not just a season record, but a career record. And anytime you set a career record in one season, that gives you an idea of how effective and how good you were. And he was certainly that, and he only got better in the playoffs. And so he was a great leader, picked up the offense very quickly, and did what the job required. And what the job required is what Ryan Day always says, is do the routine things routinely. And that's something that Will Howard excelled at and got better at. And the more he did that and the more he eliminated his mistakes, the better the offense got. So that's the charge for Ohio State's next quarterback, which leads us to the question of how is Ohio State going to replace Will Howard? And whoever does it just has to do the routine things routinely. And I know Jeremiah Smith doesn't make things look routine. He makes them look extra special. But the thing is, just give him the ball and let him do the special stuff. The quarterback, just do the easy stuff and get him the ball. Same with Carnell Tate, same with Brandon Ennis. And so when you look at the candidates for this job, it's a short list because Ohio State only has 3 scholarship quarterbacks. You're talking the elder statesman in redshirt sophomore Lincoln Kienholz, who did not throw a pass in 2024, threw a couple of passes in 2023 before he was thrust into action in the Cotton Bowl and went, I think, 6 for 17 in that game when Devin Brown was hurt because Kyle McCord had already transferred out. Devin Brown starts the bowl game against Missouri, gets hurt in the first quarter. Lincoln Kienholz, true freshman, not ready for this, and played like it. And you also had Marvin Harrison sitting out. You had an offensive line shift, a new center who didn't have any business being there. So it was not a good situation for any quarterback, let alone a true freshman quarterback in his first significant playing time against a top 10 opponent in Missouri. So he did not do well. Judging Lincoln Kienholz and his opportunity to win this job based on that game as a true freshman, neither here nor there. Don't do it. The next guy in the picture is redshirt freshman Julian Sayin. Played a handful of games last year, 3 or 4, I think, and was 5 of 12 passing for minimal yards. And the big play that everybody will remember was a little pass down the sideline to Bennett Christian in the second game of the season that went 55 yards for a touchdown. And so that was the main contribution for Julian Sayin. It was his first game playing as a Buckeye and threw a 55-yard touchdown. And that really what you saw last season wasn't what was seen behind the scenes on the practice field. And I know the expectations are very high for Julian Sayin. The third candidate is true freshman quarterback Tavien St. Clair, who is coming to Ohio State as one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the class. He's from Bellefontaine, Ohio, and really is kind of a created player when you look at him and the arm strength and his ability to move and just all the things that you would want in a quarterback he has, except he's young. He's a true freshman, and he's not played the highest level of high school football. So, there's a reason to think that it will take a little bit of time for him. The good news is, though, he's going to have plenty of opportunities because, as I said, he's just one of 3 quarterbacks that will be taking part in spring practice. And so all 3 of these guys are going to get a ton of reps and a ton of opportunities, and they're going to be cycling through and rotating and getting as many throws as they can handle in the spring. And while a lot of other guys may be taking it easy because they don't need the reps, all 3 of these guys need everything they can get because the job that they're going to be tasked with is very, very important. As I said earlier, it's the most important position in sports. And when you are the Ohio State quarterback, it doesn't get much more important than that. So this spring is going to be huge for them. May not have Jeremiah Smith to throw to as much, just depending on how much work he'll get. Carnell Tate as well. They've got some young guys that they're going to mix in there, and you'll get to see some Mylan Graham and some Demarion Witten and the freshmen that are coming in. But it's more about, are the quarterbacks throwing the ball where they need to be? Do they understand the offense? Is the ball moving? Are they doing the routine things routinely? And that's just going to be the rallying cry for Ryan Day and new quarterbacks coach Billy Fessler to these quarterbacks. Just do the routine things routinely, distribute the ball. That's something Will Howard did very well, whether it's going downfield, whether it's checking down, whether it's dumping off, whatever. You've got weapons all over the place, so go ahead and use them. It doesn't always have to be downfield as we saw last year from Howard in the offense, because eventually it will become more downfield stuff once the confidence is there, once the feel is there. And so that feel starts now in off-season workouts and working together and after practice, before practice, things like that. Every quarterback and group of receivers, they've done it. And you have after hours. It could be at midnight, it could be 8 o'clock, whatever. When you want to get some throws in, these guys will text the receivers and, hey, who wants to go throw? And the guys that say, nah, I'm good, generally are the guys who don't end up playing. And it's the quarterbacks who are trying to get guys going that become the leaders and the guys that other people will follow. So that's the other interesting thing here is you've got at least the 2 guys, Julian Sayin and Lincoln Kienholz, who are trying to establish themselves as leaders because this position needs to lead. And so that starts in workouts. That starts, then continues in spring practice, summer workouts. all of this, Ryan Day is looking for leaders in this quarterback battle, and both of these guys know that. So they're going to perform as well as they can. They haven't really been leaders since their high school days, so this is going to be new for them, but then also familiar. And so as their true natural leadership abilities come out, their teammates will see that, and we'll see how it goes and see who performs. Spring is huge. I think right now, clearly, if you ask the majority of people, they're going to tell you it's Julian Sayin, former 5-star guy. Ohio State brought him in from Alabama. There's a reason they brought him in. Ryan Day was big fan. Chip Kelly could not say enough good things about him last year, about his ability to pick up the offense, to understand where to go with the ball and quick release and things like that. So we will watch more this spring. If you're asking for a betting favorite, that would be Julian Sayin. But he's not done enough to this point to think that he cannot be beaten out. And so this spring is going to be a pretty good way for Lincoln Kienholz to know where he stands and for Julian Sayin to know what else he needs to do. But then also Tavien St. Clair will find out just how far behind he is. And if he's not that far behind, that might drive him even more over the summer. So there you go. That's how Ohio State is going to replace Will Howard. One of these three guys will be the guy. Wouldn't shock me if they bring in a veteran quarterback after the spring, not necessarily to start, but just to give them some depth and some experience. However, if they do bring in a name, then that kind of tells you maybe things didn't go as well in the spring as they thought they would. So there you go. There you go. How Ohio State is going to replace Will Howard. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up if you would. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell to be notified when got more of these videos coming for sure. Like I said, I think I did 16, 14 or 15 of these because I didn't double up on the defensive ends and I didn't double up on the offensive tackles. So got about 9 or 10 more of these to go as we get ready for the NFL Combine coming up here this week, which again, hit the bell to be notified. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so, because we're going to have a bunch of stuff. 15 Ohio State Buckeyes at the NFL Combine, and we'll have stuff from all of them. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.